Hey.
We're back. Day 3. Graphic design.
Day 3.
Yay.
Portfolio day.
Yes, there's so much to look forward to today. So we're back with Amber Asay. She's been working on a brand identity for the last 2 days. And we've had a lot of returning guests. So let us know if you've been with us since Tuesday. Pokey says, great opening. Thank you.
10 out of 10 intro. Yes.
Oh,
We're getting
thank you.
approvals over here.
We haven't always done such intros the last 2 days. So
Yeah.
we stepped it up for the last
We
day.
did, just for you, for all of you.
Yes. So Michael's been here for 2 days. Steven's been here. Hi, Masroor. We haven't seen you. I think you're new today. So thank you for joining. Raphael. Hi, my earthlings. Hello. Anshuman. Welcome. Thank you. Hi, Evo. I see a lot of returning guests.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're
Anna.
doing...
Hi, Anna.
Hi. Samuel's new. Oh, yes. I also want to know if this is your first time joining an Adobe live stream, because we will give you a special welcome.
Kelsey Price is new. Hi, Kelsey.
Hi. Hi, Fred from France. Hi, Ginger, Gerard. So today we're doing portfolio reviews, so make sure you check that out. Right above the chat box, you can see the link.
I'm
for
excited
portfolio
to see your
reviews.
portfolios, too.
Yeah, it's always a highlight. So click on that link and you can submit your portfolio using the form that's linked right there. And towards the end of the stream, we'll be looking at your submissions. We're going to pick 2 submissions to look at, and we'll go really deep. We'll scroll through everything, read everything as much as we can, and give you some feedback. And you have an expert here who can give you real-time feedback.
Yeah. Wearing
Yes.
glasses today?
I
You
can
were wearing them
finally
yesterday.
see.
Or Monday
I
or
wasn't
Tuesday?
wearing them yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
I know. I try to keep everyone on their toes. I wore them the first day, but sometimes I wear contacts. Fred says the first 2 episodes were super interesting, so I was looking forward to this one tonight where I
Cool.
live. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's nighttime in most places
Yeah.
where people are watching.
Thanks for watching us instead of Netflix. That's like
yeah.
really
thank
impressive.
We love that you're watching us. And we want to hear from you. So keep asking questions and chatting with us. And we're going to just jump into the work that we've been doing for the past couple days.
Mm-hmm.
I say we. I haven't been working. I've just been...
You've been contributing.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm like, that doesn't
You
look
brought
right,
up some
Amber.
great
Can you
points.
change it?
Yeah.
She's like, fine.
Yeah. So,
Oh.
just a recap. This is what we're working on. This is what has been finished up to today. Had some a round 1, and then yesterday worked on a round 2 with client feedback. This is the direction we're moving forward with this logo and can design. We have 2 flavors here. And then today, I kind of want to start building out this brand a little more and create more applications or kind of like get the client more excited to show where this can go, how it can like move and breathe and become much more of like a full brand and not just a can design. So yesterday we started working on a box design. I'll finish that today, possibly do 2 based on the 2 flavors, a color or a box per flavor. And then I'm going to fill out some of these mock-ups that I have. So I'm going to do some wheat paste posters, business cards, possibly a tote, show a little bit of Instagram and what the logo would look like on Instagram. And so I'm going to kind of fill out this deck that the client will see. It's all about presentation for client work too, and making sure you're presenting it in a way that really impresses them and that gets them excited about it and makes them feel like they're getting the value of your work. So another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show the logo on the first page. And I like to do what's called a responsive logo. I feel like that term is becoming much more used today just because a lot more people are familiar with responsive web design. And I think responsiveness can also be applied to logos and branding. So let's put together our responsive logo. I'm gonna make this a little bigger. So I'm going to do a couple of versions. I'm going to do the full, basically large desktop version of this responsive logo, which is like a full lockup. And that full lockup will include Mezcal cocktail because that is kind of like the tagline in this case, or the descriptor for the brand. So I'm just gonna kind of rearrange some of this stuff, check my scale, make sure that the lockup would make sense. And I usually tell clients that this lockup is good for when they're like being seen out of context. So it's not with the can, it's maybe like a sponsorship logo or a logo that somebody else is going to put on something. And so having a full lockup helps explain or show the brand a little more out of context. And now I could probably outline this as well. I don't need it to be live text. Same with this one. I just do a quick Command-Shift-O for my outline. And then I'm gonna align these, nudge them so they're all centered. And that's our full lockup. The second lockup, maybe I'll do, let's see. So the second one, I would say we could lose the tagline. And then the third one, I would say would be probably without the mark. And then getting down to the fourth one, I need to grab one of these versions. Hopefully I still have one. Oh no, I didn't hold on to one.
Would you provide brand guidelines along with this?
Yeah, so this would eventually turn into like this is how to use your logo, these are the different places to use it. And I didn't hold on to an outlined version of this, so I'm just gonna create a smaller one. But since this one is gonna be more of like the favicon version, where it literally would only show up like probably 16 by 16 or about that size, I'm gonna make one that's just like a reduced version.
Like a smaller optical size?
Yeah, and hopefully the way that I would do it would retain just a little bit of the brand without losing it. So I might actually do 2 here. And I guess if I want it to be, again, really symmetrical, then I should probably go by my rotate tool again, because it's just too much work trying to figure out what all of those angles would be.
Yeah.
So let's see, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
It looks really simple once you've done it, but it's not that simple to make.
Yeah, that's true. So copy, paste in place, rotate, and what did I say?
7?
7.
I think. Kelsey's loving this.
Oh, maybe
Eliana is so happy.
Oh,
It's
good.
great. I hope it's because of us. Maybe you're happy for something else, but let us know. Michael, if you produce the design commercially, would you have to pay a license fee to Adobe for the font? So the font that we're using for the logo is available on the Adobe Fonts service. It is available to use commercially. So all fonts on Adobe Fonts are included in your Creative Cloud subscription, and you can use them for logos, for broadcasting, any commercial use you need, because you're covered with your Creative Cloud license. And if you want to read more about that, you can look into the terms, because we do have an end user license agreement that's more detailed. But in general, you can use the Adobe Fonts service for commercial use. So she wouldn't have to get a special license to use this logo. If you wanted to modify it, you can still do so. You just have to convert it to outlines first and then modify the letter forms. Hey Larry, first time here. That's exciting.
Hi, Larry. Welcome.
Anna says, Amber, the branding is beautiful. It's so summery.
Oh, good. And that was one of the goals of the project, was they wanted it to feel summery. So that's going to be our responsive version. And it's really important that it can be seen at like that size where it's tiny.
Yeah.
And I do that because, just a quick comparison, if it were to be this version, it gets really busy in there and loses some of those details. So this version, I mean, if I wanted to, I could even add one more and do kind of an in-between. But yeah, that's basically...
But you also never know if it's what kind of screen it'll be on,
Yeah.
or how it'll be printed. It might not be the best resolution.
Yeah, and when it becomes a little more pixelated, then you have to keep that into consideration too, is some of the pixels might fill in those gaps and it could become really blurry or hard to see.
Do you envision that for the Instagram like display picture?
I'm not sure. I think for Instagram, I might actually just use the full version. And something that I tell clients a lot of the times, they want to use their full name for Instagram. And I point out to them a lot that on Instagram, your logo or your name is always next to your icon. Always.
That's true.
So it's repetitive to have your word mark be your profile picture, because then it's just gonna say Elenita twice. And so I always tell people, you might as well use your logo mark or the mark that becomes more of the picture moment for your profile picture, and then your full name will be next to it. So that's what I always prefer.
Yeah. Kelsey, this is our last day for this stream. So this is your last chance to ask Amber questions, if you have any.
Yeah, ask away.
Yes.
And since we're working on this Instagram, I like to kind of help them visualize where it can go, what it could look like. So I just kind of, for the sake of filling it out, I put a little art direction into this as far as showing off the brand in different aspects, and maybe they want, since they love the idea of people drinking their drink on the beach, we can put in some beach photos. But this is basically like the potential of them doing a photo shoot sometime, and I kind of help them to understand that like their product would most likely be in these pictures, or that maybe they'll just be like fun lifestyle pictures.
Yeah, that looks really cool. Anything you can do to get them visualizing what the final piece will be is probably useful. all the mock-ups and stuff.
And I love that I can just paste. A lot of the times I just paste pictures into InDesign. I know InDesign is a very link-based program, but you can also just copy and paste. It'll, of course, make your file a little bigger depending on what you're pasting into it, but it'll embed it. So this image won't become lost, or it doesn't need to be a link for it to always stay there. But I kind of like doing that a lot too.
Samuel has been asking questions about the responsive logo. So I think that when you use that term, you don't mean it in the same sense as responsive web design. It's not like a way of coding something. It's just a term that means it can be used in different sizes, right?
I always tell clients that it's nice to have a full range of logos, of your logo, depending on how you're going to be using it. So you need the logo to be represented in really large formats and really small formats, depending on where it's going to appear. And so in that sense, it's nice to have a flexible logo. So this is basically just it being flexible across different applications. So I'll take that responsive logo that I created, and I'm just going to show them this is how it'll all look. So I'll put this all into my InDesign presentation for them to see that too, and then I can walk them through that explanation as well. So it's to say when you're not sure which logo to use, then these are the definitions of when to use them. So in like a style guide, I would basically point out to them when your logo needs to be smaller than 50 or maybe smaller than 20 pixels, use this one. When it needs to be like in between that where you don't have room for the full logo, then I would say the name matters more than the actual mark. And then when it needs to be, if this would probably be the most ideal lockup, so in most scenarios, I would tell them if and when you can, use this one always. But if you can't use this one, then use one of these smaller ones.
Yeah.
And then if it's going to be one where it's completely out of context, then that's when I say use the full lockup so that people understand or know the product that you're selling.
Got it. Ange asked, what did you search on Pinterest for those photos?
Oh, I mean, the nice thing about Pinterest is I just like, if I like a photo, like I really like this beach scene, for example. When I click on it, it shows me more like this. And so there's like a ton here, like look at this fun beach too. So it usually ends up being like a rabbit hole moment where you just keep digging and digging.
And you've been making this mezcal board over many sessions. It's not like she didn't just search one thing and get all these pictures. She curated
this is my board. So I've been collecting a lot of this over time.
Yeah. Kelsey asked, would you verbally walk them through branding guidelines with your InDesign presentation? With this particular presentation, yes. I like to get on the phone, have a screen share similar to this, and give them this live presentation and walk them through a lot of that. So yeah, I like to verbally talk to my clients a lot of the time because it helps them to understand all the details and helps them to ask questions in those moments too. Another thing that I like to do is put together a typography page just to show what it would look like outside of their actual package, what the rest of the brand would look like. So sometimes I like to just kind of put a picture in here to show what the logo would look like on an image too. And I like to do that so that they can get a little more excited about not just what it looks like as the logo on a can, but what it looks like in real life or with like lifestyle imagery.
but maybe I don't love that picture. Let's see. This one might be good. And then I always tell them too that a lot of this imagery is just placeholder. So this isn't final imagery. It's more of art direction for when they do a photo shoot and when they start to actually think about that.
That looks nice.
Thank you.
So for those of you who've just joined, welcome, say hello.
Welcome.
I know that people are joining all the time, so I just wanted to shout out to you. And if you haven't seen the last 2 days, we're here with Amber Asay, and she has been creating a brand identity for a mezcal cocktail company. So they're creating a can of mezcal cocktail that you could buy in a store, and she's been working with them to create a logo and different designs for different flavors of the cans. And we've been talking about how to take that first logo exploration, get feedback from the client, and take into consideration how it would print on various media and all of that practical stuff that I think we're going to get into more today.
Yeah, it's nice to really explore where the whole brand can go. And I think sometimes as creatives, we're the ones to do that, to really help people visualize that as well.
Mm-hmm. So are you going to give them a set of fonts to use alongside the logo for copy?
Yeah, so I'm going to actually use the same fonts that I used on the can, but I want to show them that outside of the can just so they can kind of visualize it with with actual maybe marketing material or poster work or things like that. So
Cool.
I've got my character panel up. I realized I'm missing a few windows on here that I need to put back in. But the font that I was using is Pressura. Maybe I should actually look at what it was. It was bold. Okay. We'll make it all caps.
Hey, Kevin. Hi, Jack. Kevin, Amber's studio is called Nice People Co. So that's why she has nice people on her deck. She's also nice.
I hope so. I guess I can't claim that.
I'm the nicest person you'll ever meet.
Ever. No question.
So you guys see there's a chat and win countdown right here. So all you need to do is stay in the chat, and in about 5 minutes, we'll be picking a random winner to win 100 free stickers from Sticker Mule.
Ooh.
So it's the fastest and easiest way to buy custom stickers, and we're giving a lucky winner 100 3-inch by 3-inch stickers that you can use to put your own design on, and it's a very easy way to enter. All you have to do is chat, and we'll be picking someone in 5 minutes. So I'll give you the signal of when to start chatting. Of course, you can chat before and after, but I'll give you the signal because we'll be looking through the chat for a username for a few seconds or a minute. And oh yeah, Lucia says we all love stickers.
Yeah.
We do. Sulky, hi, welcome back. Hi, Masroor. Hi, Claire, Angela, Tehi. Tehi asks, how do you come up with font pairing?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's usually very visual. It's just figuring out the concept and playing around with it and seeing which ones look good together. Usually when it comes to font pairing, I try not to do things that are too similar to each other because then they all start to feel or look like each other. So I try to find contrasting typography. And so in this case, I ended up using a monospace thinner version of this same logo or of this same font. And so I like to use, in this case, I'm using a full family, and it's nice having a big family to work with because then you can do thin versions and bold versions. And then in this case, I used this one because I'm trying to go for more of a vintage vibe here. And so especially with this particular font for the logo and some of those, I guess you could say, chiseled serifs, it feels like it's this woodworked logo that was created during wood type era, and so it has kind of a nostalgic feel to it. And then this particular font as well, called Pressura, it has rounded edges, you'll notice, and that rounded edge also makes me think of more of wood type as well. And so putting those two together is as if it's all coming from the same era, and that it's all, it feels very, very much in the same context of each other. So it fits along with this full concept that I'm going for. And then I have other typography too that I'm going to use for body copy, and I think it'll be a lot of this to me isn't body copy. It's more like this is headline, this is subhead. So I want to use a body copy version for them for the back of the can as well as for the website, because when it comes to body copy, it needs to be readable, and it needs to be something that you can read for a full paragraph. And some of this text I don't think is very paragraph-worthy text, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Leroy says, really cool to see your thought process on showing your clients their brand can be more than just a logo.
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes I assume people can visualize that future with me, but they can't. And I've learned that over time, that when I start to put some of that together and then they have verbal reactions to it on the phone and they're like, oh wow, it's because they didn't see or couldn't see where it would go. And so I feel like it's my job to show them where it can go.
Yeah. Michael says, do you ever call out fonts that they should use in either email or Word documents? Would you ever go with something unique or just keep it native to system fonts?
Yeah, when I put together email signatures, for example, I always try to look for a Google font comparison to the brand fonts. So having a Google font version is good for newsletters because most newsletter based services only let you use Google fonts or like website system fonts. And so having a Google font pairing or equivalent is really good for branding. And then if you have to reduce it even more down to system fonts, I think that's helpful too. So yeah, especially if it's a bigger brand and they want to have all of those details associated, then I feel like every detail matters. And especially since they're trying to get investors involved in this product, they want to make sure that they're completely buttoned up and that they look very buttoned up. And so I know that they'll want that and that they'll need that in order to get people to buy into the product.
That's a great answer. And we have 10 seconds left till Chat and Win. There's more font questions, but we're going to go to Chat and Win. So let us know what kind of product you want to see the logo on. Tote bags, cans, boxes. Let's start. Chat and Win. Get chatting. We're back. So who's going to chat to win stickers? Evo says, guess I want stickers too. I think you do. Lucia, Gerard wants bags. Camila wants to win. Jordan, oh man,
Glass.
let's go win.
Cups. Tote bag.
Cups, that'd be cool.
Hats. Oh, that's a good idea. Glasses.
Claire says signage.
Shirts.
Sunglasses. Buttons. A sun hat.
Brass knuckles.
Oh, we got a winner. Victor, congrats.
Yay.
Victor Akande, you win 100 stickers from Sticker Mule.
Go Victor.
Go Victor.
Go Victor. It's your birthday. Go
You win
Victor.
stickers. So
We should
let
be
us know.
songwriters
I know.
or rappers.
Those of you that didn't win, don't worry. You can still use this link. So go to stickermule.com/Adobe Live 19 and you'll have a discount to create your own custom stickers. Not as good as 100 free, but it's still a good discount. So go on over there. And Victor, let us know what kind of stickers you're making.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Claire said she wants to see a business card, which you do
Oh,
have
yeah.
a mock-up for.
I do.
so-
And I also have this tote bag that I'm really excited about. I love this idea of this little stair-step Aztec pyramid as part of the brand. So I think I want to put this on here as well. So I'm just going to apply my mask. Oh, that mask is awful though. Okay, I might have to actually pen tool this mask instead, which is pretty easy.
How do you get the texture of the tote bag to show over the graphics?
With the blend modes.
Okay.
Yeah, so instead of it feeling like I just put this flat color on top of a tote, it will be nice to have the texture come through a little bit so it actually looks like it was screen printed. But yeah, so for now, especially like right now, this isn't a mock-up. I just found this image online just for like proof of concept purposes. And so it's kind of low res. So I'm going to do this quick little pen tool vector mask. And the way that I do that is I right click, I make sure I'm on the layer that I want to be on, create vector mask. So now it's a nice clean mask. And then when I do, usually I like to play around with some of my blend modes, like multiply, maybe overlay, no. Yeah, I think either darken or multiply will be my best option. Sometimes I create more than one though too. Like if one isn't doing it, then I'll go through and do maybe like 2 or 3.
A couple people are asking, would a displacement map work?
Displacement
I don't
map?
know what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
Let us know what it is and how we can use it. It's a grayscale version of the same image you're working on. Then you can apply it as a texture to a flat graphic via the displace filter, and it distorts the graphic to conform to the shape of the map. Oh, that's something to explore. Maybe when we're not live.
Yeah, maybe. That sounds like dangerous territory.
Thanks for mentioning it, because
Yeah,
that
I'll have
seems
to
like
look
it
it up.
could be useful. Okay, so before we did the chat and win, Amanda Lee was asking about fonts, and there was just like one last question that I thought would be useful to answer. And she said, do you make the client pay for the licensing for the fonts?
Yes, because I think for type foundries and or the owners, it's nice for them to see that the actual brand owns the font and not the designer. So when they do see it in the world or on their website, then they can look through their own I guess, like
Sales.
spreadsheets or whatever,
Yeah.
and see that so-and-so from Elenita purchased the license for this font. So that way they don't have to do too much digging. I also make sure that they do it because it's important for the brand itself to own the font than it is for me. And so I make sure that in the contract that they know the fee of the design does not include fonts or purchasing fonts, and that is an add-on cost.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mentioned earlier that Adobe Fonts allows you to use for commercial use, but I would still recommend, if you're working for a client, that they either also have a Creative Cloud subscription or they purchase the font from the Foundry on top of that.
And sometimes you have to license it for web use too. So you can use it, some of the variations on Adobe fonts, but then sometimes you also have to purchase the license for it as well for web.
Yeah, and our license is good for web and desktop.
Yeah.
But if you're designing a website for someone else, they need to have a license for it. Because you're just the designer, and you could go off and do something else in the future, and they're the ones that are responsible for their website. So you should make sure that they have a license for it, either through Adobe or through the Foundry itself. And what you said about the Foundry being able to look into their sales records and see who's using it, that's really useful. And I actually had a Foundry that reached out to me and said, hey, someone used my font through Adobe Fonts to design a very prominent campaign logo that's out there right now. And we want to know if we can get in contact with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of thing, like if you see your font being used for a huge thing and you have no way of contacting the person, like you're losing business then, because you could totally offer them different licensing options or something else to help your brand. So I would definitely recommend, if you're designing for someone else, make sure they have a license. The company has a license.
Yeah, good point.
Hey Kita, good to see you again. And Dee, good to see you again. Follow-up question, how often do you purchase fonts for your own studio? From Amanda.
That's a good question. It depends on if I'm using it for my own studio or my own website, then I'll do it. Or if it's something that I really want and I feel like I need to buy it just because I love it so much, then I'll buy it. So not very often, just because I feel like I'm always doing work for clients, and then it's the client's responsibility to purchase it. But occasionally, yeah, it'll come up, and then I'll purchase my own license for something.
This is a cool design.
Yeah, so I'm kind of just having fun with the brand, seeing where it can go. And I mean, I like to do a ton of versions of things, but I just don't have the time to do that right now. But sometimes the first iteration, like something I just put together now, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I like it. But then when I make 2 or 3 or 4 versions, then the later versions, sometimes I like more than the first version I make. So I always say, don't stop at the first, always keep going. But right now I'm just gonna stop at the first.
But you wouldn't put the logo on here, or would you put it like
I don't know. That's
small?
what I'm trying to figure out, is maybe it would be a tag that would have the logo. But sometimes something I like to do when it comes to branding is I don't want to just give them, I don't want to do what a client would do. And what a client would do is slap their logo on everything.
Yeah.
They'll just take all of the collateral and then they'll just duplicate the exact same design on everything. And I feel like that doesn't take much creativity, and any client would do that or could figure that out on their own. So what I like to do is create something new or different or unique that they wouldn't usually have or come up with on their own. So maybe just for the sake of like, hey, your logo can be on this too.
Yeah. That's cute.
Then I can just put this like fake embroidered tag on it.
Hey, Jan Eric, haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing? Hey, Josh. Hi, Kathleen. Amanda says thank you for your answers.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for your questions. So yeah, is that huge? It's a really big tag.
Josh is new to this.
Hi,
Are you new
Josh.
to Adobe Live or new to design? What do you do, Josh?
So I just saved it. What I did here was I edited. That's such a weird word to say. I did edit with Photoshop, and then when I do that and save it, it automatically relinks it for me in InDesign. If I was going to do it a different way, then I'd have to come back in to my links and update the link here. Do we have any InDesign users out there? Anyone who loves InDesign? I don't know
I'm sure we do.
how many InDesign lovers we have out there.
Shout it out loud if you love InDesign.
Yeah, all caps, exclamation point.
Claire says, I really need to learn to use Illustrator. It frightens me. LOL. Photoshop is my tool. Yeah, it's hard once you get used to one tool.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time to get used to something else.
One of the reasons why I use Illustrator so much is it translates to print better. So you can create all your designs all day long in Photoshop, and that's fine for mock-up reasons. But then when you have to actually send a printer something, you have to do that design all over again in Illustrator and send it to them. So I prefer to do it in Illustrator so that I have that base point to work with, and then I'll jump back and forth because later we're going to put this design into the die line for the printer, and I'll kind of walk you through that too.
Cool. Hi, Virginia. Hi, Daniela. Hey, Beck. So we have a lot of InDesign lovers.
Oh, good.
Let's see.
There's something nice about
Cheryl.
InDesign.
Yeah. Kelsey says InDesign rules. Cheryl, Lucia, Kareem, Daniela. I think I said Daniela already. A lot of people love InDesign.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
It's nice too because sometimes, or in the past, I would design a lot in Illustrator, and then I realized it made my Illustrator files huge because Illustrator isn't supposed to be used for imagery. And so once you start dropping a ton of images into Illustrator, it'll slow it down and it'll just become like really heavy. And so the nice thing about InDesign is it won't slow down your computer. It's much more capable of large imagery and big files, and you can just like have a lot more fun with it in here.
That's a good consideration because sometimes you don't think about your file size.
Mm-hmm.
Sean says, do you strictly use Photoshop for collateral for these types of projects?
Only for the mock-ups, if I want it to feel real, but I'll create, like, for example, let's do these business cards now. What I'll do is I'll actually create the business cards in Illustrator because, again, I want to have a file ready for print. So I'll create like the actual file or the design here, and then I'll copy and paste it into my mock-up.
Got it.
So it's hard because with the brand that I've set up so far with Elenita, it's become a very flavor-based brand, I guess you could say. There isn't like one color, there isn't a color palette for the full brand. The color palette right now is all based on flavors, and their flavors are constantly going to be changing, or they might have like 5 to 10 flavors out there. And so it's hard to know what colors I should be focusing on because the colors are all based on one flavor. So that might be a question I would ask the brand sometimes too, is do you have a hero flavor or hope to have a hero flavor? And do you want your brand to always reflect that flavor? Or do we want to create a brand that has its own, you know, like can it be black, for example?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Paula from Argentina, hello. Victor says, when I was in school, we went from Quark to InDesign. InDesign is much better.
Oh, yeah. I don't know Quark.
That's a little bit of history.
Maybe we'll keep it green.
I like the green with
Yeah.
turquoise. Paul asks, how do you organize your files?
Oh, like you want to look at my Finder?
It seems like you're pretty organized.
It is, yeah.
Like how you
I
name
have a system.
things.
So I keep all of my clients in this, and then every client has these 7 folders. Information, where I keep contracts, estimates, feedback, invoices, and then I have a reference folder. That's where I keep all my mood boards and any files from the client. I have an artwork folder, and that's where I'll put things like these Adobe stock images or any other artwork that I've collected for this particular project. I have a design folder. That's where all my main design goes. So we'd been working in this branding folder. I have all my mock-ups in this mock-up folder. And then I've got my die line that we're going to use in this print folder. And then I have a presentation folder. This is where all of my InDesign presentations end up, or the one that we're working on right now. I have a portfolio folder. So this is at the end of the project when I do a photo shoot of the final project that is for my website. I have a folder specifically for that so that I know going back and forth when I need images of that final project for like a competition, for example, or for when I'm gonna start uploading things to Behance, then I know I can access all of that from my portfolio folder. And then I have a final files folder. That's where I will organize all of the assets and final files that will go to the actual client. So what I do is I just copy and paste this link for them and say, here's all your final files. And then I'll give them like EPS format, Illustrator format, PNGs, black and white versions of their logos, and basically like all the final files that they'll need for future use.
That's so impressive.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's helped a lot.
Keyshawn is saying, OMG, you are organized, all caps.
Oh, thank you. I'm like always wonder if there's better systems out there. In fact, I saw someone on Adobe Live, the Chutzpah girls actually. I saw them going through their Finder and realized that they were organizing their clients by alphabet. So they had they like split the alphabet into 4 different folders. So they had like A through H for the first one. And I was like, oh, I need to do that because now my client folder is becoming like really long to scroll through. And that will just eat up time too. That's a good problem
to have.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. That means you have too many clients.
When you're really successful, you have to make new folders to group your clients.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let us all aspire to have that problem.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
Sean asked, was the die line supplied by the client or did you find it?
The die line was supplied by their printer. So they had already been talking to a printer to get quotes and pricing from. So they came to me and said, we already have a printer we've been talking to. Sometimes I'll help them and I'll find printers for them or use printers I've used in the past. So in this case, it was nice because they'd already done some of that homework for me. And then they reached out to the printer and asked for the die line for this and then sent me that die line. Most printers will have a die line. Sometimes printers will ask you to do it. And in that case, I'll just do it based on a similar project or a similar die line that I found out there.
Where would you find it if you weren't
Sometimes I'll
supplied?
just Google it. Like if you Google like coffee cup die line, you'll be surprised how many die lines you'll find in that search. And some of them are already Illustrator files that you can just use.
Nice.
So yeah, that's usually how it happens. But this particular die line was very heavy with information. This printer does this on the regular and had very specific specifications that I have to follow.
Great. Eliana says, I need to be this organized. Jan Eric says, I love being organized too, but Amber takes it to another level.
Oh,
wow.
Whoa. I am next level organized. What a compliment.
Fred says, even your bookmarks in your browser are so beautifully organized. Can you show us again?
Oh yeah, you guys like these color-coded
oh my gosh.
bookmarks
I didn't
here?
notice that.
I've been doing this for the past 10 years, probably. I had a college friend that did that, and I was like, tell me your secrets. And so then I figured out whenever you bookmark something, Command D,
You delete the
you
text.
delete the text, the
Yeah.
name, and
That's
then
what I
it'll
do
only,
too.
you do it too? Yeah. And then it'll only show that. So like, look, here's my little Adobe icon, my Adobe fonts icon. So I
Yeah.
just click on that, and then it quickly takes me to
the
Adobe
sign-in
fonts.
page.
Not even sign. Oh, it did it for me. Wow.
Nice.
That must be my Creative Cloud that just signed me in, because that was kind of impressive.
Oh, I saw a new logo for Elenita. Scroll down. There
Oh,
it is.
the 70s version of Elenita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard that Coca-Cola has this like retro 1980s Coke they're bringing back?
No.
There was this new Coke in the 80s that was withdrawn because everyone hated the taste.
Oh, okay.
But now it's become like a cool retro thing.
Does it look like this?
No, but when you said that,
You know
it
what this reminds
reminded
me of?
Oh, yeah,
Right?
totally.
Any Sega users out there? Whenever I think of Sega, I think
Now
of...
you can design your own Sega logo using
There you
this
go.
font.
Done.
It's called Virna.
What does Sega remind me of? What was that one character? Did anyone play Sega? Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I always think of that swell guy.
Aw.
Good old Sonic. Makes me want to own a pet and a hedgehog and name him Sonic.
That would be so cute. Although I don't know how they are as pets.
Yeah. I hear California you can't own them. Right?
Oh.
Or is it illegal? I'm not sure. Diehard Sega nerd,
Yeah,
Corey
Corey.
Davis.
Wow. Everyone's getting excited about Sonic.
Dang.
The chat exploded.
I just hit a niche over here.
Yeah, that's the one thing when I'm on Adobe Live, I notice how lacking I am in knowledge of video games and
Oh.
comic books.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like that always becomes a huge topic and people in the chat are talking about it and I'm like, yeah, comics.
In my
sure."
experience, a lot of tech-savvy people tend to have a video game background.
Yeah.
So,
Or people who are designers, they enjoy graphics.
Yeah.
They engage with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
so when it comes to business cards, they're little things. They're these tiny little things. And sometimes people make their fonts way too big on business cards. So my standard is I always start with 10. Sometimes I'll go down to 9 or 8.
That's so small.
I've even done...
I think that for the viewers, they can't see where your business card begins and ends.
Oh, yeah.
It's very low contrast.
That's true.
Because I couldn't see. I was like, wait, where's the card?
There's a nice bold black line.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, thank you. I've got this like cream. So what I'll probably do is, depending on their budget, the business card that I would suggest that they get printed is a cream paper. So I'll look through some of my swatch books at home, look for a nice cream paper, and then would recommend possibly something that feels more analog, especially for this particular project. So probably letterpress is where I would go for them in particular, because it'll feel like a nice pressed vintage business card. And that would look really nice if this was pressed into the card, the actual logo, and if there's like a nice green letterpress ink pressed into it. I think all those details will go a long way. And I tell them that too. Sometimes their budget doesn't allow, and that's okay. But if it does, I always start there.
That's great. I'm impressed consistently on the amount of things you provide to the client.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not just the logo or just the graphics for the can. It's a really holistic approach.
Yeah. And I think having that those services can help you become more of a valuable designer, because I feel like a lot of the times designers feel like they just become executors, and the way to get away from just executing work just because you know Adobe programs, the way to get away from that is to really set yourself up as an art director and as a strategic brand thinker, and thinking about ways that you can actually build out the brand and make good recommendations and have good advice for them. And then the more you do that, the more they trust you and will let go of the design process and let you do what you do. So, yeah.
Nice. Paul Alvarez says, I'm a little behind, but thank you for sharing your file organization.
Yeah.
That was a big success.
I know.
You didn't expect...
I guess that's something a lot of us don't talk about.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing. Once you have someone showing their screen to you live, you get to see things that you wouldn't normally see.
Yeah.
Because you would never have that in your portfolio.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, my files are also very well organized.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, Cars. Welcome.
Hey.
Corey says, is there a service you go through for business cards, or do you find a local printer?
I like using local printers, and especially since this client is in LA, it'll be even nicer to go through my local LA printers, because there's no shipping. They're just gonna, or shipping costs will be really low. There's a low footprint there and all of that.
So you would recommend the printer for that?
My local printer? Yeah. Is that? Oh, yeah, for that part of the project?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I do is I'll go to like 2 printers that I know of and get comparison quotes. And then for printing, I act like an interior designer. So if you know interior design business, they take all of the products and things that they go to and all of their vendors, and they mark it up. They usually mark it up about 20%. So when I work directly with my printers, those are vetted printers that I've provided, that I've worked with, and that I trust. So I'm bringing that to the table. And then I'm also bringing the print production communication to the table, providing specs, providing paper weights and names and all of that. So all of that I consider part of a service that should be marked up. So when I take those quotes, I mark them up, send them to the client, and say, these are your comparison quotes. These are the different specs that we could go with. This is the cheaper version, or this is the more expensive printed version. So it depends on their budget and which one they want to go for. And sometimes they'll say, I really want those letterpress printed cards, but I can't do this cost. Is there anyone else we can go with? And sometimes I'll go and find like a third quote that might be a little cheaper and say, I found this letterpress printer through a friend who supposedly is really good that we could go with. So sometimes you have to play that game, but it's worth it because you want to help them through that whole process, and you want to make sure they get printed so that you can have some for your portfolio. So I try not to just hand them my files and say, okay, take care of printing, good luck. I try to walk them through that process to ensure that it gets printed well, that I can actually use those cards for my portfolio, and that like all of that whole process goes well.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you help with that too. I keep
Yeah.
finding more things that you do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm a big print person. Like, I nerd out on print. And so, because at the end of the day, it comes back to the fact that I really like having this design that you can hold in your hand and that you can experience and, like, rotate and look at. And that quality is becoming more and more obscure in this day and age. Everything's so digital. So I like to bring print into every project that I do.
How to convince the client that what he wants is ugly in a nice way. I have this problem. I just made a great brochure, but the client wants something
Very profuse and
very
ugly.
Oh no, Camilla.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's hard. I mean, sometimes you have to kind of tiptoe around that in a way that you have to become a salesman, and you have to show them what else is out there. So sometimes I'll say, like, I'll put comparisons together. I'll look at really high-end brands and say, look, this is the stuff that high-end brands are doing and doing well, and that's why they can sell their product at this price, or this is what their brochure looks like, and they sell like a ton. So when you look at those brochures and help them understand that, then they'll realize what goes behind a good brochure. Sometimes what I found is when people aren't designers, they tend to look in their own industry. So say, for example, you're working with a real estate agent and this is the brochure that they want. The reason why they're looking at that brochure and wanting all this ugly stuff might be because they're just looking at local competitors within their city or their state. And those competitors don't have good design either. And so they might just be referencing bad design and have a really bad idea of what good design is. So in that sense, that's why I tell people, look outside of your industry when it comes to design inspiration. I tell clients that because a lot of, like, even photographers, a lot of photographer websites tend to look exactly the same, or interior designers too. So then sometimes they'll come to me and they'll say they want a website, but when it's, and then I show them or tell them, like, a lot of interior designer websites look the same. And what I want to give you is something that looks completely different than all of that and something that looks well designed. So I kind of walk them through some of that.
Yeah, that's a good answer. It's tough. Val says, give them what you want to do and say, here's what you asked for and here's what I chose to do.
Yeah.
And it'll, obviously yours will look much better.
Yeah.
And they'll
so
be
that's
like,
another thing.
oh.
Yeah, especially if it's like a simple design. I'll give them what they asked for, and then I'll do the version that I recommend. Because if you only give them what you asked for and you're not happy with it either, then no one's happy because they don't see that it could be better, and you gave them something that you knew could be better too. That happened recently too. I had a client who asked for packaging on a particular color, and I didn't really recommend it, but I did it just because they asked for it. But then I also showed them, but what if we do it on this color instead, or this paper color? And then they ended up going with the one that I recommended. So you never know. A lot of bad design out there. There's a lot of bad design out there. If that's all you see, that's what you'll want too. Yep. It's true, Victor.
Yeah. That's true. Bye, Eliana. Thanks for joining. So we have 25 minutes until the portfolio submission deadline.
Ooh.
So around that time, I will be looking at the 2 portfolios that we select, but please continue submitting. I know it can be daunting. It can be intimidating to send your portfolio to be viewed live, but we'll be nice. This is a safe space. So please do so, and I'm sure you'll get really good feedback. So that means we have 25 minutes to
wrap
it up, pretty much.
Completely, or?
We'll have a little bit of time after we review the portfolios, but that won't be enough time to get into the die line stuff.
Right.
So I think
we should move on to that.
We should try to get that done in the next few minutes so that we're not worried about it.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, so I'm going to quickly put this on here. This is my business card mock-up. And I just kind of want to show them what a potential business card could look like. It's nice, some of these mock-ups, all the layers, very organized layers, and the layers that say, put your design here.
That's
Makes
so
my
easy.
life so much easier.
It looks beautiful.
So we'll do that for now. That's in there in my presentation deck for them to see the potential of their brand.
Oh, it's almost done.
Yeah. And like, this is one of the lines that they sent me. They've been kind of doing their own copy for this project. So I put that in there. I might possibly put like their URL here. Oops. Does anyone like that quick command? Option Command C.
Oh.
I do it all the time. Get your boxes cleaned up, or your text
I love
boxes.
that. Option Command C. Cars says it's 10:30 at night here, so I'm going to sleep soon. That's okay. Thank
Goodbye.
you for being here.
Have a good night.
I don't know if you're leaving, but
Oh yeah.
but I hope you sleep well whenever you do.
Yeah. Put a little more text over here. Oh, maybe I should switch that.
Yeah, LA, California.
Yeah.
Laka.
Laka.
You need to let us know once these are available
Yes.
in stores. I'm gonna
Oh
buy
yeah.
so many cans of this.
And if you follow me on Instagram, then I'll be able to update you more too. So
Yeah.
I'm at Amber AC. It's pretty easy to find me.
Do you
It's just
update that account more than your studio?
Oh yeah,
account?
and I have my Nice People account. It's at nice.people.co. But yeah, I update both. The one with it's just me is a lot more personal stuff that I post too. So you can follow either one. I'll probably update both. But yeah, if you follow that, then you'll get to know. Especially, I'm so excited to see these get printed in real life. So I'll probably do some stories of when I actually get a physical can in my hand, even if it's just the sample or prototype. And we'll most likely post that as a story on my Instagram. So be sure to follow me so that you can know when this comes out, because I'm excited
We're
about
all
it
going to be
too.
drinking.
We'll have one big Elenita party virtually, since we're all around the world.
Totally.
Okay, so let's dig into this die line. So they sent it to me as a PDF, but I know printers tend to just send it as a PDF, but it's actually a layered file that I can use in Illustrator. So if you just drag and drop your PDF into Illustrator, you'll find that out, that it's actually just a
Really?
fully layered file.
That's
So
cool.
that way you don't have to be like, wait, where's my Illustrator file? You should just check it first, just in case. And then if it really is like an unlayered like PNG that you can't work with, then go back to the printer and say, actually, I need a fully layered PDF. So.
Oh, Evo has to go to sleep too.
Oh, goodbye.
Bye, Evo. We'll see you another time.
Thank you for joining. From Holland.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Another little quick key. So when I have several projects open in Illustrator, if I do Command and the little curly, I don't even know what that's called.
A
Does anyone have a name for that? Oh, it's a tilde?
Yeah.
Why don't I know these things?
Tilde?
Command tilde. Then you can just switch between your projects. Anyone else use that? Sometimes it's hard because your fingers have to like you know, play an octave on the piano.
What if you do Shift Command like you can do in your tabs? Shift Command arrow. Does that work?
No.
That only works in browsers.
Oh, okay.
That's
Oh,
the first
maybe
thing
we
I
should
thought of.
tell Adobe that, though.
Adobe.
Does anyone do that? Make recommendations online for Adobe to add new things, new features?
I
know
just sit
sometimes
at my
people do that.
desk at Adobe and go,
Adobe,
add this feature.
can you hear me?
Thanks, Ahmad. He says, you're both doing great stuff.
Thank you.
Beck is in for the virtual Elenita party.
Oh, yeah. I could come back.
Yes.
That'd be pretty
We
fun.
would love to have you back.
So, die lines. Anyone familiar with working with print die lines? They love to throw a ton of information on here, first of all.
It looks really scary.
Yeah, it's very intimidating. They also put all these layers in. I don't know if you can see these up here. So there's this die line one, which is the actual die line part. They have a legend layer. They have the artwork layer, and that's where I'm going to put my artwork in. And then they have a comments layer, which is where all that information is. And then within this, they say recommended main art placement. So they recommend, based on the fact that there's these folds that are going to happen on the can, that you put your main artwork here. And it's nice to know that, because what I would have done was I would have just split it in half and had like the front of the can on the right, the back of the can on the left. So now I know that their recommendation is to put it between these two folds. They also say don't place important copy on this overlap area. And then their legend also kind of explains which parts are clear area, where's the print area, perforation, die line. So that way I know what's going to be the actual crop line. So this green line is the actual crop line. This red one is what they're calling the print area. And then it says it's recommended to keep all important artwork elements below the 18 millimeter mark to avoid distortion of artwork. So they're showing me that this perforation line, this is where it's going to warp my artwork above and below it.
Is
so
that
I have
because
to be
the
careful.
can?
Yeah, I think there's
goes
just
like
like a
that?
little edge at the top of the can. And this is, of course, it's this can again. So it's like, I'm assuming what they're talking about is this tiny little ridge right here. So I need to be careful of that as well.
Sean says, from the projects I've done in school, die lines and I have a complicated relationship.
Oh, yeah.
It's complicated.
It is very complicated.
Renee remembers this. I think Renee was triggered when
Oh,
she
yeah.
saw
Not
a
another
die line.
die line. I also realized some of this might not be properly overlapping. So I'm going to overlap that and make sure that I do my proper Pathfinder combine. So it's one shape for print. And then I'm going to grab all of this. I already put the background color on there. And then I was just like playing with this as an arbitrary design. That there weren't any like actual inches or sizes with this before. So now I have to actually be conscious of my sizing for the can. So I'm realizing that some of this is shorter than the can, and that now I need to kind of rearrange some of my elements. And that's what happens. And that's why it's nice to get the die line as soon as you can from the client, because otherwise you're just going to keep redesigning things like I am now. And just so I can keep things clean for my own reasons, I'm going to put all of these shapes in a clipping mask and then put them in the back. And probably end right there. So I know I need to keep it above this green line, so I'm going to be conscious of that. These are looking a little small here, so I'll probably bring this up a bit too. And I also need to start working on the back of my can. So I'm going to wrap some of this artwork over. And since it's going to be a full wrap around like a 360 design, I want this to be, I want it to match up so that when they shrink wrap it around, that the two ends come together as like a 360 design. So in order to do that, what I'm going to have to do is probably just grab this whole piece, put it on this side, and then change my mask over here to include the other side. And that way I know that break from start to finish is where it's going to resume over here. And like, since that's kind of a risky break to end on, I might actually just bump this over like 1, 2, 1, 2. And then let's move the hill a little more too. And then I'm gonna space out more of these elements. And fix this mask here so that it comes back just to clean it up. So there I have it in my die line. And then this is the recommended nutrition facts, barcode, other, and this is other too. So my barcode would potentially go here. They don't have a barcode yet, and you have to like apply for a barcode. So sometimes I'll just like Google a quick barcode for them, just so they know or have an idea of what placement is going to be.
Yeah. Does it have to have a white background, or could it be on the green?
I think in my experience with barcodes, it has to be as contrasty as possible. So in this case, it might have to be a white background because I'm not sure that this green is light enough to put it on. But if it was going on the cream area, then I could just have it be black and cream and take out that white too. But I don't know, is that weird to have a barcode at the top of the can? Or I could put it over here.
Yeah. Oh,
in
it
my
could be
other,
part of the Aztec thing.
It's the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
That's what you get when you climb to the top of a pyramid, is you actually just get to the barcode.
Lindsay says you can test the barcode with your phone.
Oh, that's a good point. I've never done that. Yeah, and that's another thing is, after I do this die line, I'm going to print it out at home and check all the sizes of everything, because I want to make sure that it really is okay that my font size is this size. Right now it's sitting at 7. But they also have recommendations on die lines too. Like, for example, they do packaging a lot, this particular printer, so they know a lot of the like government warning stuff that's required. They know that the name and address is required. Not all printers will actually give you this information. Some of this legal stuff is basically up to the client to get it legally approved before they take it to market. But minimum type size requirement, 2 millimeter. So sometimes they'll say that, but 2 millimeters is actually really big. I'll put like a 2 millimeter by 2 millimeter. Oh wait, maybe it's not that big. I lost it. Let's make you, oh, you are black. Oh, you're on the wrong layer. So my minimum type size requirement is 2 millimeters. I'm glad that they tell me that too, because sometimes they'll say 12 point, which we all know is arbitrary when it comes to font design. Not all 12 size pants are gonna fit the same, and not all font 12 points are gonna be the same either. So they give you an actual height requirement. So that means in this case, I need to bump this up.
So you're too small. Oh, you
this
gotta
is
bump
7,
it up.
8. I might be okay with 8, and I'm okay with that size too, because sometimes, or sometimes, don't tell anyone this, but I cheat it just a little bit. Like 7 point is gonna be fine. And I'll print it out to make sure it's legible.
Yeah, I'm sure that it depends on the font too. Like if it was really thin or a script or something, you wouldn't be able to read it at a smaller size. But this is easier to read.
So I've got my subtext at 10 or at 7. I've got my main text at 10, maybe 11. And I always put these rulers down to center everything. And sometimes, like, I know it's not completely centered in the actual line too. But it's so small that sometimes you can't even tell that either. And then back of text. So I've got this text that they sent for the back of the can. So that's where I'm going to put all of this text. I'm going to create my text boxes. And I already have a favorite font that I'm going to use. So for the body copy, I'm going to use Relative. It's really nice because it's nice and wide. I actually like this particular font, and paired with all this other vintage type, because it still has some of those like subtle curved edges. Whoops. But it's got like some quirky characters. I really like this A. It's a little more extended, which is a nice pairing with all this condensed type that I'm using. So I'm gonna go with Relative for my body copy. Relative book. And I'm just gonna center all of this. Sometimes I play around with the text box to check my rag or to check how everything is being placed. They want artisanal mezcal cocktail at the top. I'm just gonna copy and paste this. And I kind of have my own design rules, and that means, or one of those rules is I try to keep my font sizes limited. So if I'm going to have a headline, a subhead, and a body copy, I try to keep all text to that. So if they're going to ask me to add a new thing to the back, I'm going to use one of those 3 font sizes and just eyedropped from it, because it'll keep my design nice and clean.
Nice.
I thought about this the other day, but I kind of feel like Bob Ross this week. Does anyone say that? I'm just like,
yeah.
And
we've had a lot of Bob Ross
references.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Look at this happy hill on this can and this happy little sun.
But
so
I could never be him.
5 minutes, everybody, to submit your portfolio.
Yay, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, send it in, and we'll choose 2.
Gonna center that, and then I've got my government warning.
Does that need to be in all caps?
Government warning?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so aggressive.
I know, right? What did they say here?
Oh, that's not in all caps.
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe the client told me it needs to be all caps, but maybe I'm crazy. Now I'm second guessing myself. So I'm going to do it in this subtext, but I'm going to break my rules a little bit and make this one its own size, just because those 3 main sizes I feel like are more brand recommendations.
What are those little things?
This is because I'm still using
a trial.
A trial.
Okay.
Look at the fun stuff that type designers add into their fonts.
That's so funny.
Just like a splat with eyes.
So this is from Grilly Type,
yes,
right?
Grilly Type. One of my favorite foundries. They do some really good stuff.
Yeah,
and
they're great.
once this is like approved, then I'm gonna have my client get a license from there. I'm gonna remove my hyphenate from paragraph because I don't want any hyphenations. Clients usually hate hyphenations too, even though it makes my text really clean. And then I think government warning is actually supposed to be bold. Rules. And another rule that I learned that they told me was that I actually have to have this on the white area.
Oh.
But the government warning has to have a solid background, one background color. I guess there's a specification it can't be on multiple colored backgrounds. So I'm just gonna barely keep that off of there. I might condense it a little bit.
It's weird the way it's centered. It looks like a poem.
Yeah, a haiku,
Yes.
so to speak.
Especially when the is on its own line.
Yeah,
The risk of birth defects.
I'm just gonna cheat some of this too because I think I want this bottom part to be longer than it would be.
Yeah, that looks better.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to do your own thing with the text if you want it to be very particular.
Yeah. Have you ever had to learn ABC regulations for alcohol designs?
Are you asking me or everyone?
I'm reading a question from the chat.
Oh,
from
somebody's
Paul.
asking this.
Yeah.
Paul, have I
don't
ever
know
had
what that
to
means.
learn ABC regulations for alcohol designs? No, I haven't actually.
What is the ABC law in California? The California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control is an agency of the government. Yeah, I feel like if you... Like, this is the only thing you need, the government warning, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to know much else.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I defer to the client because I don't, it's a lot for me to know a lot of business rules for other people's products. So I usually recommend, especially when it comes to food packaging, to work with a food packaging lawyer and to get everything approved before going to print, because that's a lot of liability on me that I don't want. And as a designer, I shouldn't be responsible for that. So yeah, in most cases, that's what I would say. But yeah, I mean, some designers do mostly alcohol and happen to know the ABC regulations or all of the rules that go into what the design specifications need to be. And so, I mean, I say kudos to those designers who really have all of that information, because that is helpful for the client.
Yeah. So someone brought up that, yes, Amber did the design for Poosh, which was Kourtney Kardashian's brand that she launched really recently.
Yeah.
And Lauren asked if you got to meet Kourtney.
I did. I met her before I started the project. They were, I don't know how many people they were interviewing, but they asked me to come over to Kourtney's house and have a official meeting. So before we went official with the actual project, we had a quick meeting in person. I think she just wanted to gauge wanted to meet me first of all, and then kind of gauge my personality and figure out if I was the person she wanted to hire. So yeah, it was fun. And then I met with her throughout the project and had phone calls with her throughout the project too.
Yeah, that's what you get when you
Work with a celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can work with a celebrity one day.
Yeah. I worked with Rosie Huntington Whiteley too, and got to go to her house and had a couple meetings with her as well. So it's really fun to drive over to Beverly Hills and, you know, be in that area and all of that. It's pretty fun.
That's great. So the deadline has come, so I'll be looking to see which portfolios we selected in a minute. Just want to make sure everyone had a chance to submit theirs. Alejandra says, how do you get trial fonts? I've only seen that once, but there are plenty of fonts but I've loved to try more in depth. So a lot of foundries, you go to their website and they'll show you which fonts you can trial.
Mm-hmm.
They love to have people trial their fonts. And actually, if you're interested in something that you don't see a trial link for, you could always email and say, hey, I'm doing this design. I'd really love to try out one of your fonts. I will buy it if it works for me. Foundries are more than happy to accommodate that. I've talked to a lot of type designers who say that they regularly email links out to people.
Yeah.
If they see that you're genuinely interested, you're not there to steal anything or, you know, they'll do it for you.
Yeah, I've heard of some people, I have friends that work for really big magazines, and those magazines will sometimes reach out to type foundries and ask for a trial, and they'll test it on their like articles and things like that to make sure it works and looks good before going to print.
Yeah. Okay, let me see if we have the portfolios. I do. Let's get those open. Hey, Inza Mom. Let's see. And Alejandra, you can also use Adobe fonts. You know, all these fonts are included in your Creative Cloud subscription. So if you want to try something out, just go to fonts.adobe.com. There's tons of fonts there for you to experiment, and you can activate those at no extra cost. So I would highly recommend that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jerry. Okay, so I have 2 portfolios ready to look at. And the first one is Kelsey. Congrats, Kelsey. Thank you for submitting. So if we go to my screen, I have hers open. Let's get that on there. There we go.
Hi,
Make
Kelsey.
this full screen. Kelsey's been in the chat, so I'm glad that she got chosen here.
Yeah.
So I usually like to just read the info first.
Okay.
So Kelsey's here in the U.S. She's a freelance graphic designer. She has a BFA in graphic design, and her interest is UX, UI design. She also enjoys photography, illustration. Currently looking for a job in the Denver area. All right.
Cool.
So you're in Denver. All right. So
Let's see.
let's click on the first thing we see. So this has a lot in it.
Ooh.
This is all UX, UI stuff.
Look at those animations. That's
Yeah.
cool. I think that's really fun when people add that into their UI UX, because that's what it's all about, is the experience, and I'm getting a better idea of the experience.
Yeah. Let's see what else.
Nice. Ooh.
We didn't travel today. Usually we go to space.
Oh, really?
I forgot.
Were we supposed to do that?
But we can go now.
Yeah. How does that work?
Well, all you need is your helmet, Amber.
Okay.
Yeah. Here.
Do we have it on during?
Ooh.
Wow.
Okay.
This is fun.
We forgot to go to space. And
Oops.
space is where we can really review the portfolios.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Have our
when
thinking
we're on
caps
Earth, we're just
on.
like, oh, this is nice, but now we really have our thinking caps on. See, and Kelsey's UI is right in
Wow.
our controller.
That
It
looks
really
really
goes
cool
well,
with the
doesn't it?
animation, too.
It does. So Kelsey, now you can design for spaceships. So let's go back to my screen, and let's see her other stuff here. So she does a lot of, let's see. The one thing I want to know is, what are these projects? Because I don't see a description.
Oh, yeah.
So that
And was
would
it
be-
real? I mean, I guess that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But if you told me what kind of app this is for, that would help me to visualize how your design fits into that sort of theme.
Yeah. And like to me, it looks like it might be little glimpses of 3 different apps, because one has cash, one has movies, one has, and so I'm wondering if that is all part.
Oh, she says
None are real.
they're all just practice.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And you could say that on there too, or these are screens of different apps, just for the purpose of showing functionality, kind of a thing. And I think that might help them to know that this isn't supposed to be for the same app, because when it's one project, then I might be more of like comparing everything to see how does it look cohesive, how does it work together. But these in particular don't need to work together because it's examples of different apps.
Yeah. Jan Eric says, trying to do portfolio reviews on Earth? Sheesh. I know. I
Who
don't know
does
what I
that?
was thinking.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Okay, animation. I can tell you're already good at animation from what I saw.
Yeah. Cool.
Eat my words. Ooh.
Ooh.
That's funny.
I like that little glitch. Gain the lead.
Yeah, that's
That's
cool.
cool. And the numbers. I like that the numbers were the, what do you call it? The first image, the cover image. That's what I meant to say. Because that really caught my attention for some reason. Maybe because I'm a type nerd, but it was really cool to see that.
Yeah, it definitely made me want to see what's behind the numbers.
Yeah.
And she has her resume here. That's good. We can see everything about you. Packaging. Oh, a facial cleanser.
Whoa.
So this, again, I don't know what CEC is, so it would be great if the title was something more descriptive or had more descriptive text in it. Creative Elemental Cosmetics. Oh,
Nice.
look at that.
I like that bottle design.
Yeah, that's cool. This is cool too, visualizing what the actual box will look like. That's always useful for a client to be able to see the finished product.
For presentation purposes, I'd probably stack the images and instead of putting them in a grid.
Because then you would have more space to see the full image.
And then I could see, instead of having to click into it, I can see the design a little better.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, there's a lot in here.
Is this a branding project, possibly?
Yeah, Kelsey, what's Coco Rosie? Is it a music festival?
Because, I mean,
That's
it's a
what
really
that
fun
tells me.
logo. So I would probably start with the logo first, to give hierarchy to the logo first and say, this is a custom logo I designed, because it's very customized too. So I think highlighting that will be really helpful. And then show it on all of the applications after.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Very expressive.
Yeah.
Did you create these letter forms, or is it a font that you found? Looks like you might have created it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a musical group.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Yeah, I would agree. Start with the logo. Unless you have the logo superimposed on here or you have something more descriptive, because the images don't tell us that it's a musical group.
Oh yeah, and I'm not familiar with them either, but it looks like more people know who they are.
Oh, it's your favorite band. That's cool. She used photography to get the type.
Oh.
So did you take pictures of type in the wild? How did you use photography? That's
That
really
might
cool.
be a good way to use your animation, is to show the photo and then have it turn into the actual type and going back and forth between that, because I think that will help me to understand the photo and the type go together.
Mm-hmm. West Apparel. So this looks like a brand. You were exploring a brand identity. That's cool.
Looks like the West, or it looks like train tracks. It reminds me of train tracks. Maybe that's the
Yeah, like
concept
the Wild
behind
West.
it. Yeah, which is fun. And then West and Peril are two different typefaces, which is sometimes can be a lot for one logo. And so sometimes I recommend choosing one or the other, like maybe all of it looks like the word West does, or all of it looks like the word Peril does, because then it'll show a little more constraint design-wise. But I mean, I think a lot of the fun part of it is the character and the creative concepts with the actual type too. And then I would say for presentation purposes, the same thing as the actual packaging.
Who's this guy?
Ooh. He's thinking about if he wants to purchase West Apparel or not.
He's funny.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
I
like
interrupted you.
if you stack the design again, I think that'll be a good way of separating everything so it's not overwhelming and you're not putting all of the design into one image. And then that way people can scroll through it. And then if you wanted to do a couple of things next to each other, then that'll be good. But when it's all stacked, I think it helps to like, for my mind to visually go through every part of the project.
Yeah. And it looks like you have various ways of presenting your logo. So it might be worth consolidating that into like 2 or 3 different set ways. Like if it's going to be small, this is how it'll look. If it's going to be bigger, this is how it'll look. Because here we have like the logo mark initials plus the full name plus the initials again. And here we have, oh, well, that's the same. Here we have it superimposed. So maybe a little more consistency could help it look a little more polished.
Look, Steve Royce says the portfolio looks really neat.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Thanks, Steve.
So that's pretty much it for Kelsey.
Cool.
But
Thanks,
thank
Kelsey.
you. Yeah, I know it's intimidating to have everyone watching you.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sending that in.
Yeah. It's a good idea, or I like seeing more of your style and that there's very much hand-drawn stuff in there and it's got a little more grit into it. And so I think holding on to that concept or onto that style and fleshing it out more, I think will help people get a better sense of your design style too.
You know what I noticed? She said she used these pictures to create
the type.
This type.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I thought she was saying like just general pictures, but you can see the letters in all of this.
Yeah, so that's why I think having it an animation of going back and forth between each letter and its image.
That would be
corresponding
really
image.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, Kelsey, thanks.
Thank you.
And our next portfolio, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce this name.
Oh, yeah.
Quatemoc Aleman.
That's probably close. I mean, you do speak Greek, so if I probably would have butchered it way more.
At least
I would have said
speak one other
Ailman.
language.
I'm like, Ailman?
But it might be Ailman, because sometimes I overpronounce things.
Oh, yeah.
And people are like, no, my name is just Paul. And I'm like, Paul? So let us know if you're watching still. I hope you're here. Please give us the phonetic pronunciation so that we're not butchering your name. But let's dig in.
Cool. Some good covers here.
Yeah. Okay. Raising questions poster. Challenge. Create a high concept poster for a MoMA exhibit based on a single truism. Calamitous collapse is better than mediocre defeat. Wow, that's deep. All right. Oh, hi, Amara. You're not late. It's fine. So I guess I'm not sure what the sketches are, or maybe this is his process for arriving at the final piece.
Oh, I see.
I guess these are the first sketches, and then some type exploration. And then the final.
Oh, okay.
Cool. I like that you showed these
Process.
sketches because you were playing with where the type was going to be placed and what elements you could bring in.
Sometimes I like to show the final thing first because it catches their attention first and it's the finished product, so you want them to see that first, and then to show process at the end or sketches at the end, because then they can see how you arrived there.
At least the cover image is the
Yeah,
final.
that's good.
But it'd be good to have it at the top too.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun to see the process and to see all of the variations.
Yeah. That's great. The Computer Lab campaign. Challenge. Create a marketing campaign for the upcoming semester to continue increasing awareness of the Computer Lab.
Ooh.
Okay.
I like the color.
Yeah.
I like that those monochromatic greens and like the pops of yellow. It makes all the information easier to digest too.
Yeah.
CSUN.
great.
Did you go to CSUN? That's closer to where I live.
Oh, really? Maybe you're still there because maybe these were student projects.
Yeah.
So we have all the sketches. That's great. That's cool to see how it started, and the sketch was pretty close to the final.
Yeah. And it's cool that to see the sketch and how like it's just very conceptual at the beginning, and then the final looks very clean and buttoned up and just like very finished, which is really great to see too. All the gradients and the like the visual hierarchy of it all.
Yeah. All right, and then a brand campaign for the student union social media accounts.
Ooh.
So that's cool that you have the final at the top.
This feels similar to that other one too. And so in that sense, I'd probably group these to show like a series of posters with that other computer one that you had. And then that way you can kind of keep it all together in one project.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But it's fun to see all the variations of it and the similarities of it, of the like header and footer being consistent across all of them, and then the variations of illustrations.
Yeah, it looks very professional. Well done. Fruit snacks.
Ooh,
Create a package for organic fruit snacks brand.
these are fun. I really like those fruit illustrations, Those
They're
little
so
smiles.
Cute fruit.
I'm assuming this is for kids, which makes it even more kid-friendly, having these little faces on it.
Yeah. This was good experience to figure out how it'll print on the package.
Yeah. There's that die line.
Yep.
Yeah.
We love die lines. Cool. I think this was presented the best out of all of them.
Yeah, I agree. And it's good because you did that thing where you put the final product at the top and then went through the sketches after.
Yeah.
Because it helped me to see the final product first.
Yeah, and we'll just see one last one because we're running out of time. A
Nice.
typographical expressive poster for a design lecture series at the Cooper Hewitt Museum in New York. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love the orange color.
Yeah. I like all the distortion of type and the hierarchy of it, that the type in the middle is so big and the stuff next to it is much smaller, so it's not competing with each other. I would say my first reaction to this feels like one of your best projects, so I'd probably put it first in your Behance.
That's what I thought too.
And then that way people will see this first and get a good sense of what your best work looks like. And then if that's all they see, then that's fine. But then if they continue on looking through your portfolio, then they'll see more work after that.
Yeah, I would definitely put that first. And you also have these playing cards. These are super cool. Nice illustrations.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've given as much as we can because we're running out of time.
Time to go back to Earth?
Yes, it's time to go back to Earth.
Do we fly? Is there an outro?
No. It's not glamorous when you get back to Earth. You just plop back down.
We're back.
But let's show really quickly in the last couple minutes that we have. This is what we just worked on, working on the die line with Amber's final design. And here is one of the finals of the can. And
now that I've got the back built out, I want to show the client that too, because with their investor decks, they're showing investors the front and back of the can. So I'm going to put this in the mock-up as well so that they can have this for presentation purposes too.
That's great. So for those of you that were with us for 3 days, you saw Amber start from the beginning with her mood boards and her type exploration. And now we see an almost perfect final can, which is really cool. So even if you missed out on some of the time, you can watch the replays and see the process for everything that she decided to do on this product. It looks smaller now that I see it on there.
On the can? Yeah, the text.
Yeah. But it's different when you have it printed out. So.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is whenever I look at like actual cans, when people are looking at it, they're looking at it this close instead of that far away, especially when it comes to the body copy. So sometimes it is nice to just print it out, act like you're a consumer looking at it for the first time and kind of look at the design and think, is this big enough? So yeah, I still need to print this out and make sure and test that or do that kind of a test too.
Yeah. So we have about a minute left.
Okay.
To say goodbye.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
I'm excited
really great.
to see where this can goes, what the client finally decides on, and to see it go to print. So be sure to follow along to see where this goes, and
I'll be following. I'll
Yeah.
be waiting to buy the can and also to see all of your other amazing projects.
thank you.
Amber's been a great guest. You've shown us how to organize your files, how to, take printing into account, how to show your client it's not just about the logo. You can create so much more for them and add value. So I've learned so much. I'm sure you guys have too, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much.
And thanks everyone for joining. You were all great.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.